It's Morphin time. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is the original Power Rangers installment, the very beginning of the big mega franchise, and had 3 seasons and went from 1993 to 1995. We all know the story. 5 teenagers with attitude are selected and become the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and have to stop the evil bad guys. As we all know, the Power Rangers franchise had a mega impact on my childhood. And what's this Mystic Force box set, you may ask? We'll make a video about this eventually. So going into rewatching the original, I was intrigued to actually rewatch it all. I did like it as a kid. I have a lot of nostalgia for some episodes. I have fun memories of watching it on Nicktoons, Jetix, and even on VHS. So going in to see it again was quite interesting. It has a bit of a mixed reputation. Some people like it, some people just don't. I'm in the middle. I'm going to say that this series is decent. Yeah, decent. Not great, not amazing, not one of the best, even if it is the original. It's just decent. The story is nothing really. Yeah, I have to be honest. I think the story, it's not terrible, but there's no story arcs, and that's kind of my big problem with this show. There's no long-going story. There's no real character arc that goes on throughout all the episodes. We do have one, but I'll get to that in a moment, which I have a lot of issues with. The story just, I wish we got a bit more of a long-arching story, like similar to how the Disney era or future seasons, like say in Space. A long-going story arc that makes us connect with the characters more. It just feels like each episode, characters meet up, they talk, villain makes a bad guy, they have to fight. That's pretty much its basic formula. It just feels more of a product of its time, and I think that's kind of how I sum it up best. It's not something that you'd watch now. Okay, maybe some people might watch it now, and that's great. But for me personally, it's not something I would watch again. It's more something of a product of its time. Which isn't a bad thing, but just, it's a bit dated, I have to be honest. I think the entire series is quite dated for what it is. It just makes me think that this is the reason why Power Rangers is considered strictly a kid's show, because of the original. The original was the beginning of the mega franchise. Because the original is mostly cheesy, corny, way too kid-friendly, and doesn't really have a balance in my eyes. Dino Thunder, SPD, Jungle Fury, Time Force, In Space, now I know I'm listing a lot of my favourite seasons, they have a balance as long as a long-arching story. Mighty Morphin, not really. It's not bad. Some of the story arcs we do get are good. Whenever there is a character arc, it's just through a 2-part special or just one episode, and I don't like that. I want to have a character arc that goes through a lot of episodes. I want to flesh out the character. I want to flesh out the storyline. It just feels like mostly a cartoon. There's a different plot each episode, and that's basically it. It's kind of like Kung Fu Panda Legends of Awesomeness. Every episode, we have, Poe and the Furies 5, they hang out, they have to fight the bad guy, then boom, episode's over. That's kind of the same with this one. Not terrible, just not the greatest story I've ever seen. Effects and CGI are obviously, terrible. Well, it is 1993, so what do you expect? But the cinematography, the fight choreography, it's a mixed bag for me. Some of the unmorph fights are actually pretty decent, but a lot of them fell flat to me and just came out being pretty damn poor. A lot of the morph fights were pretty damn good. However, the ninja fights in Season 3 were just awful. They were just messy in my opinion. As for my thoughts on the costumes, well, they're great. We'll get to the White Ranger suit in a moment, but for the most part, the costumes are great. But the ninja costumes, well, I like the suits, but the masks are ridiculous. So let's get on to the characters. We have a lot of characters to unpack, so let's start with the Ranger team. We're going to start off with the Red Ranger, Jason. Now, I quite like Jason, and I like his leadership skills, so he was pretty good. He's not like an amazing character in my opinion, but he's a pretty cool leader, and I quite liked him. Kimberly, the Pink Ranger, is good too. I don't have a whole lot to say, but other than she's good. Billy, who's pretty much like the original version of Ethan, he's pretty cool and he's quite funny at times. Trini, the Yellow Ranger, who sadly passed away 20 years ago in real life, is pretty good too, and she'll always be remembered from the Power Rangers community. Zach, the Black Ranger, is basically kind of like Billy. He's pretty cool and pretty funny at times as well. As for Tommy, who is Dr. Oliver in Dino Thunder, I have a bit of a unique opinion on him, to be honest. I like the Green Ranger arc, I like how he gets turned evil, but to me, Green with Evil, while it's still pretty good, I feel it's very dragged out. I feel making it 5 parts was kind of overlong. What I mean is that some episodes feel like filler to me. And I kind of think it should have been a two-parter. To me, though, I think it should have been longer. What I would have done was Green and Evil should have been a two-part special. Tommy becomes the evil Green Ranger. Then we have 8 episodes or even 15 episodes with Tommy as the evil Green Ranger. Or maybe that's just kind of dragging it out, but that's how I would have done it, just to make it more engaging. But he is pretty good. As for my thoughts on his White Ranger suit, now I'm quite nostalgic for the episode White Light as I did have it on DVD as a kid. I'm not a fan of the White Ranger suit. The helmet just looks off. It looks like an owl, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing or anything, but it looks off. The suit is nice, but the helmet, not so much in my eyes. As for the new 4 Rangers, Rocky is okay. Ashia is, I think that's how you pronounce her name, is alright, I guess. I guess she's interesting. But Adam, he's pretty cool. I like him. As for Kat, her character arc was pretty odd, and I found her quite bland in Power Rangers Zeo. But here, well, she's not that bad, I guess. Alpha 5, who is like a robot in this series, is interesting. He's pretty funny at times. And Zordon, well, he's fine. He's just a mentor, and that's pretty much it. Bulk and Skull I have, well, kind of mixed on them. There are times where they are pretty funny and quite delightful to watch, but at times they can be pretty childish and pretty annoying. The villains are, well, for the most part, quite forgettable and not really interesting. The 2 main villains, though, well, I'll get out to my thoughts. Rita Repulsa, she can be entertaining, but she's a very similar character to Lothor. But if I'm being honest, I actually think Rita Repulsa is much more over the top than Lothor. I just thought at times she was quite annoying and just not that threatening. Lord Zed, though, he is cool, but I felt disappointed by him, to be honest. He was definitely intimidating and ruthless. I just feel he didn't really have much of a character. But that's just me. He's definitely the best villain in this series, don't get me wrong, but I just think he could have been fleshed out more. The soundtrack is alright for the most part. Some of it is just kind of generic, but the theme song, it is catchy, I have to admit. Go, go, Power Rangers! Mighty Morphin Power Rangers! If you asked me to rewatch this series, I'd only watch a few episodes. If I was to do like a marathon of the franchise, I would only watch these episodes, as these are just my favourites. Every single episode to me just felt the same. I just had the same impression throughout all the episodes. It's just decent. It's just enjoyable fun. It's good but not great. And that's basically my opinion on Mighty Morphin. Overall, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers may not hold up entirely, but it's still a good, decent series. It's not great, it's not perfect, it's not fantastic, but it is a good show. But if you love it and if you have a lot of nostalgia for the show, that's absolutely awesome, and I can definitely see why. It definitely does deserve the credit, and it is the original, so, you know, it has to have some respect, because it is what started the big mega franchise. I'm going to give Mighty Morphin Power Rangers a 7 out of 10. So overall good, but not great, but I don't hate it, I did like it. It's just, I wouldn't watch it again, and I would only watch a few episodes. But that's my thoughts. I am glad I watched it. Granted, I was getting a bit sick of it, as it is very corny, very cheesy, and very dated, but it's still decent at best. So, we got a bit, oh boy, the next review is going to be interesting, as we're about to review the movie from 1995, and oh boy, this is going to be an interesting one to unpack. You might be shocked at what I think of it, and you might not be shocked at what I think of it. I haven't seen it since 2008, so we have some interesting to rewatch. Until then, guys, skadoosh everyone, and take care.